All right, so we're back again for another one. Tonight we have Star Wars enthusiast, or was it?
Sure, we'll
And
stick with Star Wars enthusiast.
all right, I think one time we went with fan. How are you doing today?
Not bad.
Good, good. We're on episode 5 already. I will say from the beginning, this episode had me. Now, and I didn't even pay attention to the name and the title of the episode, but I think that would have gave me an inclination of what was going on or what was about to happen, but I didn't know.
I had a small hint earlier today
Oh,
because
really?
someone, last time we were talking about like, oh man, it'd be cool if he like went and hired a bunch of bounty hunters,
Right.
right? It should have been just like, nope, just one. Because I saw I don't know, some meme, but basically they took the end of the last episode where
Mhm.
it's Fennec and Boba Fett talking, and it's the clips of the actual dialogue. It's just first shot, second shot. It's like, credits can buy a lot of muscle. And then it was a pullout. The last shot was a pullout, and it said in the closed captioning, Mandalorian theme played. And I was just like, oh, okay. So that was my hint. Dang
There was a
you.
lot of stuff. It was I just seen something. It was a trailer for some new movie, and they wasn't for sure who the character was going to be. But
Mhm.
because of the closed caption, it said who the character was exactly.
Right?
I'm
And
like, crap.
happens so many times in shows and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's who the mysterious person is. As it's
Mhm.
like, so and so breathing. And it's like, all right, well, taking the mystery out of that one. But it's also hilarious because I was also saying, like, it would be nice if they kept the shows separate for a while. And then literally the next episode was like, no, 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 we're going to pull Mando back in. I'm like, all
Exactly.
right. And it felt in so many ways like it literally was an episode of The Mandalorian,
Exactly.
except for the 2-minute tie-in at the end where Fennec shows up.
Exactly. So, okay, so the title of this episode, Return of the Mandalorian. And like I said, I didn't realize that was the title of it because a lot of times I don't even really pay attention. I just try to get in there because I don't want any
Right.
hints. So he's like in his meat locker, and then you see the silhouette. And it's
And it's just
obviously
like,
Boba
you can
Fett.
see the spear. I'm like, that's not an antenna, that's the spear.
It was vague enough because it wasn't like close shadow, but it was a close enough shadow. And I thought,
Right.
okay. And so I'm just kind of watching. And then, he steps out, in all his glory. And I'm like, what?
Thought this was the Boba Fett show.
What? No, but it was a good surprise. I was not expecting it, but it was just
Mhm.
like, okay, it's probably not fair, but this made me realize how good the Mandalorian is. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I shouldn't have been this happy for this surprise, It's kind of like this is kind of like how I want to feel about the show I'm actually watching, because it's just funny. It's kind of not fair in a way because we have history now with the character and
Right.
everything. We have so much invested, and we're just kind of wondering what's next. It's just crazy to me how, in a way, for me, he kind of pulled all the air out of the actual show. Not this episode, but just what we've been watching so far, because it's just like the king has arrived. So it's
Right.
weird.
And the funny thing is, you have essentially two stoic characters
Right.
who are sort of known for wearing masks.
Right.
Boba Fett is clearly taking it off a lot more, so you can emote and all the rest of the stuff. But Mando, we know his soft beating heart on the inside, so we can read what's going on. We understand his restraints
Right.
that he's working with.
Right.
So a clever thing that they did. So he eventually gets the little gift that he's going to bring to Grogu. He wants to bring a gift to Grogu, and they bundle it up, and it's in a little sack. And then later, when he's on the commercial transport, and he pulls it out from his back pocket, and he's looking at it.
Right.
And the way that it's set up with the two little the ends that are tied in a knot,
Mhm.
it looks like a little Grogu head. And I
Yes.
was like, you motherfuckers.
Yeah. That was too
Like,
cute. I
talk
saw that.
about making it like on the nose what he's thinking about. He's
Yeah.
thinking about little Grogu. It's
Sweet.
hilarious
You know,
because
he's,
Grogu's freaking 50.
but it's sweet. The whole thing, like you say, he has that heart, and we know it. Let's go back to the beginning of the app. So we start off with him in a kind of like a meat locker, and you have these aliens that look like various dogs. All I could think about when I saw their faces, it reminded me of down, here in the Bay Area on Channel 2, we used to have these little commercials, and you give little lessons, and it was like this. It was a horse, and he had red lips, and he was white horse with a black mane, and then he had this friend that was this dog, and he was a gray dog with kind of a little hat, and it would do different lessons, and it would be like, don't play with the vase, and then the vase gets knocked over, and he tells his friend, "You're gonna need lots of glue." So it reminded me of that dog, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but he wore a little hat and he would, do little lessons, but it reminded me of that dog, that little gray dog.
Yeah, and a lot of the workers in that meat plant looked so much more like dogs.
Yeah.
Like they had a bit more of the spotty skin.
Right.
Like some of them just straight up looked like little pit bulls.
Right.
And they're apparently called Platoonians.
Platoonian?
Platoonian.
Okay. They selling, I'm buying.
The dog dudes.
Dog dudes. Right. So Mando's walking through there. He's looking for something. He gets to the main room after passing through all these different areas and stuff. He comes to this guy behind the desk, and he's looking for someone. And the guy's kind of standoffish. I don't know who you're looking for.
They're not here.
They're not here.
Well, he's got the key fob, as I call it. The bounty key fob. Like, he's got to be around here. They're like, well, he's not here right now. Sorry. And like, And then he's like, pulls out the hollow disc, and it's just like, and it's overlaid with the character's face, and it's just like, that doesn't look like me at all. Like, motherfucker.
Look nothing like me.
It's got the nose rings.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Amanda's just like, look, I only want him. The rest of you guys,
right,
don't want any problems. Just care for him. Doesn't have to be a thing.
Right.
Of course, it's gonna be a fucking thing.
But what was the coldest thing he said was, "I could take you in warm, or I could take you in cold."
Right? Because that's called back to literally the first scene in season 1, right? Where he's going for his first bounty.
Right.
Going warm, going cold, and he took that guy in cold.
Now, later on, I understood what the issue was, but when the way he was moving and stuff, I'm thinking like, is he hurt, or why is he kind of sloshing around a little bit? And it got a little graphic where he was wielding that dark saber and he was tearing people up. But then he was, like I said, but it's kind of, it was kind of sloppy. I'm like, how's he, burn himself with the saber? And when he took that main guy out and he cut him in half with the table, I was like, was Mandalorian darker than I remember? Is Boba Fett so much lighter that this little simple fight scene seems very heavy?
I think it's the fact that you actually, to an extent, saw people getting cut up.
Right.
As opposed to just shot and dropping. Right. And it looked, as we sort of saw later when he was trying to train with the armorer, like he doesn't know how to wield the saber, and he's quote fighting the dark saber, which I'm like, okay, what the fuck does that mean? But cool. So his big swings.
Right.
Okay. So
right. And cause like I said, when I was watching, I didn't quite understand what why he's kind of moving the way he was moving, because Moff Gideon, when he used it, he was flowing as if he was fencing or something like that. So I didn't think that it was anything else to that, but something being wrong with Mando, the reason why he's moving how he was moving. But but we find out later there's a reason for that. So I thought that was a brilliant kind of like opener. He's hurt badly, he kind of makes a deal with the guys outside the door, and it's kind of like, if you give me passage, you
bunch of money in that room. Bunch of money.
Take what you think you deserve.
Right.
And they did the smart thing and parted the sea and ran for the door for the money, and he's heading out of there with the head in the bag.
As one does.
As one does. As one does.
So the crazy thing is the next scene was kind of crazy in two different ways, because comes out and the first thing is like, oh shit, he's on a ring world.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Right? Like that is totally 1,000% new in Star Wars. We have not seen that in Star Wars before. I'm playing Halo Infinity, like, so the same sort of idea. It's a giant ring.
So that's not any of the lore and stuff. Did you read anything about that? Because I didn't never remember seeing that before. That's why when I saw it, I'm like, that's so I couldn't wait to talk to you.
As far as I know,
I was gonna check. I know you would know.
There have been other constructs that have been enclosed with a spin, but not as a ring. I'm trying to remember. It's I think it's the Corellian trilogy. In the Legacy canon, they go to Corellia and there's a couple ancient artifacts within the solar system, and one of the artifacts that they activate does have an artificial sun on the inside, and it does have a spin, so there is sort of similar sort of around the equator. There's structures and habitats and stuff that are built up. But then it should go sideways because someone activates the artifact, and the little tiny sun turns out to be a giant reactor, and yeah, craziness ensues. But outside of that, this is like the first habitat ring, like ring world construct that we've seen. There's been orbital shipyards, and some of them would literally be in one giant orbital ring, but that's more of an industrial setup as opposed, and it's around a planet. This, I don't know what the light source is. I'm assuming it's a sun, which would make this thing absurdly huge. I don't know. We only get the impression that there's floating blockers that are basically blocking out the sun and are also rotating. So that's why we get the light change and stuff. So one, that just, it took me a minute to pick my jaw off the floor. But then he's going to pick up his bounty reward, and I realized, oh my God, we've been in a oneer. So from the moment he's walking up to the turbo lift and he gets in with the guy, and the guy's like, oh shit, that's a head in the bag. And
right.
He's like, I don't want any of that problem. All the way through the end of the scene where he gets back on the turbo lift and goes down, it's all one shot. So someone had fun, and I'm sure a lot of green screens got used, but it took me a while to realize, oh, this is all one continuous shot, which points to them because it's so nice and fluid. And I did Google, and it's Bryce Howard. Yeah, she was back directing on this episode, and I'm like, that's probably why some of the tone's a little different, aside from the writing. But
she is a great director. She did the last season of Mandalorian. She did, I think it was The Heiress. And then she did the one called Sanctuary. Yeah, so yeah, she's good. She is, her and Carl Weathers, both of them surprised me, their vision for the characters, because really, even though these characters and stuff are pretty much set in stone, and they got the story written by whoever's written by, this one was Jon Favreau once again, but the directors does make a difference in how the story feels. And when the peanut butter and jelly goes together, man, it's a whole different level. This felt big.
There was that environment felt big. The whole episode just felt fun.
Yeah,
like it felt really, really fun. Jeez, I'm trying to stick in order because I want to jump around to random shit.
I know you do. I know you.
So he basically, it turns out he doesn't really care about the bounty. He really wants to find the entrance to the substrate, blah, 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 because he's looking for the rest of his crew, the other Mandalorians.
Right. One thing about when he was going to go get his bounty, I thought it was kind of interesting the way those folks were acting, because it was like, have a seat. And he's like, no, I don't want to sit down. We have another job for you. I was almost kind of wondering, were they trying to set him up? Was something more going on with that? Because they even did like a little round table revolving camera around the whole table kind of thing.
All
so
part of the
didn't,
oneer.
Right. So I didn't know if it was going to be like a setup or anything like that. But the way it was shot, it made me think that it was a something else going on, the reason why they was kind of holding him up.
Right. Well, it might have been a simple like, if we give him the info he wants, then he won't do other jobs for us. So if we try to hold back on it, he's like, he called their bluff. He's like, fine, I'll leave.
Right. Somebody else will take this head. Yeah.
Right. They're like, all right. So yeah, the other cool thing, and I think it might have been called out a few times also in Mandalorian season 1 or 2 at some point, but like the headgear does have different vision modes like a predator.
That was cool.
Right?
I didn't know that. I thought it was pretty dope. Yes.
So he's like looking for the markings from the Mandalorians, finds them and goes down. There's the armor. Does she just like meditate all the time on making armor? Because this is either she's making armor or she's meditating. Every time someone shows up to find her.
She's always ready. She got her little kit.
Right? I found it kind of funny how like when he finds her, she's meditating there, but she has her forging tools in her hands. Like that's next level dedication there.
It is. And she even saw, because she could tell he was hurt. She's like, what kind of weapon would do that to you? All this stuff without even turning back to see what was going on. It's like she knew, she felt it all.
Well, I would imagine, and if I was a paranoid Mandalorian, I would have security alerts when anyone triggers the known entrances. And like, okay, Mando's on the way. All right, cool.
Yeah. So what did you think of that? What did you think about them being there underneath that city like that? Do they just have different places where they go to for refuge, or?
Well, it sounds like they're setting this place up as a place of refuge because they got chased out of, I can't remember that other place, but from Mandalorian, I think it was season 1.
Yes.
Right. They rose up. Rose up against the guild. Right. Paid the price. There's only the 2 of them left.
That's it.
So
and then they got rid of the drummer, Mando.
Oh yeah, got rid of the drummer. God, them and their creed.
Yeah. So what do you think about that whole thing? Because I knew that dude wanted that saber. He was eyeballing it. I can see his eyes. I could tell he was
body language is like
right.
He's like, I want that.
Yeah,
it's the dark saber. And then he was like, look, my clan helped craft that. Like that comes from my lineage. I should have it. It's like the second that thing got introduced, and keep in mind, I haven't seen the episodes of the Clone Wars animated series where Bo-Katan was introduced, the Darksaber was introduced, all this sort of stuff. So it's newish to me. But the whole like, no, you have to win it in legitimate combat, otherwise it doesn't count. Right. There's a curse. But like that sort of leadership structure of just like, no, whoever's the best at single combat clearly is destined to lead armies of people, because those two skill sets go together inherently. No, they don't.
Right.
But yeah, the second that's set up, it's like, okay, well, he's just going to get challenged multiple times by other Mandalorians he runs into, because someone's going to have ambition to lead, or at the very least want that relic.
I'm surprised it came that soon though, because no sooner than the guy was patching him up, he's already kind of talking sideways. And I was almost surprised that Mando was like, accepted the challenge, because I don't think he had to.
Yeah, I don't know how their, I guess, honor system works with declining duels, because at least back in the day in the, in Europe in the medieval period, like, so a misconception nowadays is our understanding of honor, right? And it's usually like trustworthy and all those sorts of things and righteous. No, back in the day, honor and your chivalry was how much of a badass you were, because pretty much all the nobility were fighters. They were, professional soldiers. Well, not even professional, just heraldic soldiers, right? That's how you were in charge. You beat the shit out of other people. So other people disrespecting you was basically like, I think you're a bitch. And so that's what duels were about 99% of the time, is someone thought they got slighted, which means someone didn't respect them, which means they had to set them straight.
Right.
So for a duel to be like, yes, I have the leadership sword, and then to say, no, I'm going to decline a duel on it, people are going to be like, you're a weak bitch, and we're going to try and kill you even more now. Right?
Right.
I could totally see being like, oh, he doesn't want to fight so-and-so. He's worried about so-and-so. Oh, I could beat so-and-so, so I'll step up and fight him instead. And it's just like, that just gets out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, in this case, there's literally only the three of them there.
Right.
But once you back down, slippery slope.
It is. I thought it was very interesting. Yeah, especially like I said, the condition he was in and all that. But even right before he even had got that challenge and he had that fight, he went to the armorer and he had that spear. And I loved what she said, how the metal was for armor, not weapons.
Beskar.
When I thought it was just beautiful. It has a purpose and respect it. Because sometimes, a lot of times people misuse things, but even what it's made out of, and the fact that spear could have been a weapon that could hurt a Mandalorian,
right.
It shouldn't exist. Like, it shouldn't be out there. I thought that was beautiful. Like,
yeah.
Who gives that kind of consideration about anything nowadays? I thought it was very strong, that statement.
And he's like, okay, melt it down. He's like, ooh, for a foundling. Yes, for a foundling. A very specific foundling.
Mm-hmm. I wonder which one.
Yeah, right? Dude. So if you pay attention, she's making links out of it. Mm-hmm. She's making chainmail.
I was wondering why I saw a little
Grogu's getting fucking sci-fi fantasy chainmail. He's gonna have Beskar chainmail.
That makes sense. Yeah, and then I thought it was kind of cool too. They had like you heard all this clinking, and you finding out that they're practicing with the saber, and that's where we learn information about the saber, as far as it's not so easy to wield, and so she was kind of giving the basics on it, and it's almost like when Luke was getting a lesson about the Force and everything, about it's like a balance, it's a relationship, and it's not just force. And I thought it was interesting. Like I said, it explained a lot as far as like why he couldn't just wield it the way that he wanted to, like a regular weapon. And he's noticing that it's getting heavier, and each time he moves. And she even takes it and kind of does a better job with it than him, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I was watching that whole scene where he's sparring with her, and I'm just like, she's not even using good technique to block his attacks.
You are funny. You would.
I'm in a longsword club, like class on Sunday, and it's like leverage geometry, and it's just like, no, why is she blocking like that? No, get an overbind so you can repost. And then just dumb shit that does not serve the story purpose.
If you know it, you know it. Yeah.
But yeah. Then he has the duel and almost bites it. I was like, how many times can you keep ducking lower, Mando?
That's funny. And he keeps getting knocked down and he keeps getting up. He said, I want to try again. So it's like, I got to get this. And she was dropping a whole bunch of knowledge throughout this whole episode through their encounter.
The Mythosar, herald of a new age for Mandalore, and like
what got me,
the prophecy. Holy crap.
What got me when she said persistence without insight leads to the same outcome.
Yeah, I loved that.
Damn.
That, yeah. As someone who has taught people and been instructed in martial arts, there's a whole level of like, no, you need to fucking stop. You're not there yet. You're not there yet. Stop trying to make it happen. Go practice. Like,
right.
You're not there yet. So he was like, no, I can do it. And like, nah, buddy.
Yeah, so that was neat. Like I said, the lesson in the gym she was dropping, and then all that just to have that, I guess, challenge. Do you know the name of the Mandalorian that he fought? Did you catch his name?
She name dropped it. I think Palo or something like that.
Okay.
Totally. Something with a P. I didn't catch it, but
yeah, it was a bigger dude. and Mando's already hurt and trying to figure out his way with him, but then he almost kind of outsmarted him in a way, because he just like, let me just mess up his appendages and he won't be able to move so well.
Right. Cut him in the joints with
Right.
the vibroblade. Then he's not fighting the blade anymore. The blade is not fighting him.
Right.
Let the other guy struggle with it.
Right. So even going through that challenge and winning, my question is, do you know why she asked him, did he ever remove his helmet at that point? Because she asked the guy who lost.
Drama. I don't know character-wise why she would even think to ask.
Right. I was curious.
It might be she might have been like, hey, giant dude who's got a knife to your throat, have you ever broken the creed? No. See, we're still on the same team. And then she's just like, hey, Mando, you ever took your helmet off? And he was like, about that. And she's like, oh, dude, really? And he's like, how do I atone? Like, don't be a bitch and take your helmet off. And then it's like the Mines of Mandalore. It's like, okay, so new quest. Right. He's got his season 3 quest. I gotta get to Mandalore and da.
Wash himself with the whatever that no longer
doesn't
exists
exist anymore.
Right.
The waters of the Mines of Mandalore.
And I couldn't help but think what you said. I heard in my head you saying, that's the want song. That's his want song. Damn, Ryan. Because he kind of paused up before just looking up in the sky like, yeah, the unretrievable thing, the mission, the impossible mission that he has to overcome. Even if it doesn't exist, he's gonna dig a ditch and fill it with that water and make that. Right? He's gonna make it if he has to.
The glorious thing about the want song trope, especially in Disney films, it's always, I want this, which is sort of an expression of insecurity and desire and things like that. But that's not what they need. That's not what they get at the end of the movie. But it's this, it's the starting point. But that's going to be his motivator to go to Mandalore, and then other things are going to happen.
Right.
He was like, am I going to detour to Grogu first? Assuming I can find Grogu. Right. And it might be one of those things where like we don't even see Grogu all of season 3. But him having that gift for Grogu becomes the touchstone for feels on the inside for Mr. No Face.
Right. And I was almost surprised they brought him up like that. Like, this is almost kind of his mission to reconnect and to give a gift and to check on him. And I was almost surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. I'm glad that it happened. I was surprised it happened, but it makes sense. And I was glad to see it.
I feel like we're going to see over and over again, Mando's real arc is one of coming out of emotional isolation and having emotional connections. Right. Because he starts off totally cut off. And then is, stumble upon Grogu and, feels, I will protect this thing. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. And so after that, he heads off and he got to board a ship. But before he boards that ship,
the weapon check. I was like, I don't know. I got a giant plot token here. I can't give up this relic of my people. I just would have been like, no, not a weapon. It's not a weapon. Look at all that stuff. It's all weapons. This is a tool, ceremonial tool.
He already mentioned it was part of his religion. Right?
Ceremonial tool. Should have made a try, but he's not a good bullshitter.
I was surprised he packed that. I was surprised he put that saber in there. I'm like, he's like, I know everything that's in there, but I'm surprised he even put it in there in the first place. All that stuff he went through.
Right. I know this is the shortcut of storytelling, is you don't show the extra steps, but my extra steps would have been Mando watching them load the crate onto the ship of just like, is it on? Okay. And the hatch is closed. Okay. I will get on the transport now.
Right.
Stop holding the gate for me. Thank
Or a cut scene of the box and you see him sitting on top of the box in the cargo space.
you. Or put a tracker in the box. Like, oh, like, it could have been more of a thing. I don't know why it was a thing, but it was a thing. It might have just been a little bit of fun filler.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was I didn't even catch, because he's walking into the departure zone and they do an announcement, flight to and I didn't catch it, but it's Tatooine. And I was like, where the fuck is he going? I don't know where he's going. And then he has that little interaction with the kid in front of him, the classic, the noisy kid looking over the back of the seat in front of you.
Right.
And it's like, oh, Grogu feels. And then he pulls out the thing and it's like, okay, Grogu feels, cool.
Right.
And the kid comes up again later, which was fucking hilarious.
Yes, it was.
So he gets the Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to the mechanic shop. You sent me a message. He's like, what message? Like, her character's so crazy. What message? And he's like, you got me a new Razorback? And she's like, oh yeah, right, that. Yeah, come over here. And her scene starts with a droid getting eaten by something, and then like
Womp rat,
like
right.
craziness. But the thing is, I saw that little bipedal droid, and again, I had to pick my jaw off the floor because there was a Star Wars video game released like 2 years ago, Fallen Order.
Okay.
And that model of droid, if not specific droid, was from that game.
Oh wow.
So I was like, what's going on? Is Cal gonna show up? So yeah, that just totally threw me off sideways. I'm like, oh my god, are they doing another property tie-in? Like, I didn't know. I think it's just another random droid. It is funny that in the video game, when you sort of first run into that droid, one of its little legs, its ankle, is broken just like that robot's was by the Womp Rat.
That's
right?
funny.
Protagonist character, oh, I'll fix you up, and blah blah blah, and they become friends, blah blah. That little droid literally hangs on the back of your character, and it's kind of your health meter because you get stim packs, and the droid has the stim pack, so you can see how many stim packs you have. Like, it's the UI is really well done. Anyway, we go on a whole fucking tangent on fucking Fallen Order. But it was another like, oh, what a random callback to another thing. And then she goes and shows him the actual ship she wants to sell him on, and it's a fucking Naboo starfighter. And I was just like, what?
That thing's in shambles.
It's in shambles. Yes.
It's a tough sell because she's out there trying to walk around it like, imagine. And he's looking like, she's like, well, do you want your credits back? He's like, yes. I want my money back. Like, quickly answered. Then she heard little car salesman.
Just try it. Just work on it. Let's see how it looks when it's done.
Right.
And her, I want to say joking about dating a Jawa, but probably not. They're furry. They're very furry. I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
She meant that. That was no joke.
And after she says that, the Jawa they're talking to clearly is like, hey, you want to hang out sometime? She's like, no, I'm busy. Like,
was she speaking their language?
Yes, she was speaking Jawa back to them.
Exactly. So yeah, she knew something.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, like, okay, the Naboo starfighter, cool.
Yeah.
I'm also like, how are you going to transport your bounties? And I'm like, maybe she said she took out the port for the astromech droid, and you could stick some poor chump in there, or a baby Grogu. But that could be maybe how he transports people. Yeah. But man, when he took it on that fucking joyride, like. So the funny thing is they put that, I don't know what they called it, but some sort of converter thing on the front, and they rev the engine up and it's going, and I'm like, dude, that is a fucking like Hemi intake valve for like a hot rod. And I'm like, could you make it more explicit that this is a hot rod? Yeah. It's so perfect.
It was beautiful. I loved how it looked, and it just made sense, because sometimes stuff could be, especially like starships and different things like that, can be so slick it doesn't feel like a machine. You know, it's almost organic. It's so, you know, the way it's designed. So
but you got to see all the guts. You got to see all of it.
Exactly.
Right?
It just felt real for a change to me. Like it really felt, you know, like you said, like a hot rod. It felt like when it revved up and you saw the, you know, it's just like, this is actually like, you know, like you said, like a sports car. It was dope. And it's like, you know, should we do like a diagnostic? Should we she's like, I hear it. She's purring, she's ready.
Go take it for a test flight.
Right.
That's hilarious. So he takes off over the city. He's flying over the city. He's like, all right, I'm gonna open it up. And boom, just like he's out of the city and he's going through the canyons, and he does Beggar's Canyon Run, which hilariously is part of the Mos Espa Raceway that they had in Phantom Menace. And there's literally one shot where it pans right and stops, and there's a ramp that goes up. That is from Phantom Menace.
That's dope.
Like that shot is from the Phantom Menace. So there's times where I'm like, oh man, why are they doing this stupid fan service stuff? But it just fucking worked on me every goddamn time.
That's dope. Yeah. So then
so he gets up into orbit.
Yep.
And there's the transport ship. And like talk about a call out or call back to an entirely other IP. It's the Superman flyby. Right? Because it's the kid looking out the window, and it's like, oh, there's that guy that was sitting behind me in a souped out fucking hot rod. Hi. Right. I was just like, oh, that is such a nice touch. It's like, even if you don't get the reference, it's still a cool moment that they're aping, that they're imitating.
Right. And him showing off like that gets him in trouble, because then he bumps into the New Republic pilots,
the Rangers.
And you got the young Ranger tripping about, you know, hey, you know, like we want papers, and you know, you're speeding and you're not registered, and this. And then you got the older guy that's kind of like, you know, like, just don't be petty. You're like, you know what?
Wait a minute, I think I've
go.
Well, I think I've heard you before, because I was the one from season 1 of Mandalorian, and you sound kind of. We should talk. And then Mando's like, nope.
Right, and that was the other episode Bryce directed with him in there as well. So that was a good callback too.
Was that the guy from Kim's Convenience or something like that?
Yeah. And so he just hit that button, and he was out of there. The guy was
hit the nitro, dude.
Right. Had him tripping. He was like, did he just jump into warp?
He's like, did he go to hyperspace? He's
hyperspace, that's it.
He's
hyperspace.
Like, nope. He just that was sublight engines. He's gone.
Yeah, and he's like,
you want to fill out the paperwork?
Right. Man, he was so gone. It's like, we don't even read him on anything. We can't.
I almost want to go back and like rewatch that scene for the specific. He's talking about tags. He's talking about, like, say, registration. He wants his beacon, which is basically his transponder. And buckle up, we're going super nerd territory here. So as I work in information systems on the internet, like, one of the key things is, how do you verify who you're actually talking to? Right? Because you could fake your transponder signal, right? I could kind of like your key fob for your car, right? You press the button, it transmits a thing. If someone has the right type of receiver, they can pick that up and just repeat it and open your car whenever they want, right? But for the internet, and I would assume for transponder signals, you would want a way to have better verification, because otherwise Mando flies by in his ship and someone just like picks up his transponder signal and it's like, now I can replicate his ship. So the whole thing becomes questionable and then useless, because anyone can fake anything. So the thing is, for the internet, we use TLS, transport layer security, to do verification, right? It uses encryption, and it's very complicated, and I'm not going to do the 20-minute speech on it. But if I was setting up interstellar beacons and transponders, it would use this encryption verification system to do that. It's one of those things where I thought about that for literally a month, and I was like, oh wait, how do we do it at work? Oh, TLS. Okay. like I said, super fucking nerdetry. And this is what happens when you're like, well, how would that actually work? Because I'm going to run a Star Wars campaign again in the future. And I want to be smarter than my players so they can't just outthink bullshit. Because I have to think about these things ahead of time to understand how they work. So yeah, super, super fucking nerdy.
After his test / joyride, he gets back. He gets back to the garage in seconds.
Right?
Because
he's like, it's okay. Yeah, it's not that bad. He's like, I'll totally keep it.
And then the mechanic is like, hey, you had a friend that came by looking for you, and he's like, who? Oh, don't worry about it. I'm not sure her name. I'm not worried. Something like she blocked her out or something like that, and she's gone now. Don't have to worry about it.
Activated the security system, locked her out, and then she's like, I'm not locked out.
Hops down from the rafters.
It's Fennec. And the funny thing is like that looked like really well done, but they CG'd that in there. I feel like they were doing the immersive environment, and they had a separate shot of Mina Wen Fennec sitting up on something, and they digitally inserted her into the environment.
Yeah, it looked a little off.
But it was a little like, oh, you locked me out. Huh, that's cute. I'm an assassin.
Yeah, so she walks up to him with a proposition. Say she's putting the band back together, or putting the band together.
Right.
And wanted him to participate. And so, who's it for? Boba Fett. I'm there. We could pay you. Don't want the money.
I figure Mando's like, I kind of owe this guy one. He helped me out on a solid fighting Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
There was another thing. So the Piked, before he did the test flight, she was dropping comments about the Piked Syndicate. It's harder to get stuff. They stole it from the Pike Syndicate. The Pike Syndicate is moving spice through the system.
And that's why they got it off the train.
They stole it off of one of their things.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting on two levels, because basically spice is just a drug in the Star Wars universe. It's not spice like in the Dune universe.
Mm-hmm.
But the other funny thing is, for me, the idea of they're running spice through the system. Like, we think of the drug trade, like you're running spice through like San Diego, or you're running it through, Juarez or wherever. You're running it through a town. But it's a solar system. You don't have to go to Tatooine. I don't know why they're bringing it down to Tatooine to take it off of Tatooine. Like, that's a total aside thing. I know this is a storytelling thing. They're doing, short steps, shortcuts. But like, oh, they're running spice through the system. Does that mean it's going through Tatooine? Like, it's an interesting world building, but I also want like the entire side episode that is just like the inside out of their whole spice running operation through Tatooine and what that looks like, and it's totally unnecessary. But it's just like another little like thing that they threw out. The other note I have is when he got back and she asked him how it was, he wasn't downplaying like I was joking. He's like, how was it? He's like, it was wizard. I was like, what? It was wizard. I swear that's like a reference to an old 80s movie. That was funny. So yeah, now he's just going to go off with Fennec, and we will go back to the rest of the season in the Book of Boba Fett with this sojourn off to the side of Mando coming on board. Oh, that was the other weird thing. So when she was talking about the Pikes moving spice, she also said that law enforcement won't go near them. And I'm just like, what law enforcement is there on Tatooine? Right? And maybe it depends on the city, but it's like, okay, maybe at one point it was the Empire, but that's more like an occupying force. Is there a legitimate government? I know there was a mayor, but also the mayor kowtows to all the criminal syndicates. I don't feel like anyone is like, oh yeah, this is a very lawful society. We have law enforcement on the ground.
Right.
Like we haven't seen that. That hasn't been a element or a faction that has been called out, at least in Mos Espa. So it was an odd thing. It implies that there are, some sort of police force somewhere on the planet. I don't expect the New Republic's Rangers and their X-Wings are coming down to the planet enforcing the law on a local level. Like, they're basically the Coast Guard with better weapons.
Right.
If someone hasn't pitched to Dave Favreau and John Favreau.
John Favreau and Dave Filoni.
There we go. Names. Sacrilege. Someone hasn't pitched to them a Rogue Squadron show. Oh,
They were doing one?
no.
What's the one they were supposed to do, but it got canceled? Because what's her name was supposed to head it before they got rid of her.
Oh no, that was the Rangers.
I don't think it was called the Rangers though. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, New Republic Rangers, something along those lines. But it was the Rangers.
Okay.
And then she said some weird and other crazy stuff, and Disney was like, eh. But I don't know. I saw some random thing where like, oh, Disney's now thinking of bringing her back, and I was like, I'm gonna wait till I see that 5 more times before I give it any credit. So
Right.
but it's too bad because I feel like for I don't know the actor's name, the Kim's Convenience guy, the older Republic pilot, like he probably would have gone to that show.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. Oh, I know why they're not doing a Rogue Squadron TV show, because they were going to do a movie, and it was going to be Patty Jenkins that was going to do it. And I think after Wonder Woman 1984 kind of didn't perform, I think they reconsidered that, and so which
I thought they were doing something with it. I thought they were.
Yeah, they were going to do a movie. I just think they're not doing it with Patty Jenkins now.
I will say I really enjoyed this episode. It was refreshing. Like I said, I feel almost guilty for liking as much as I do, but this was so unexpected. It was a shot in the arm that I didn't expect, but when he made himself present, I was like, wow. Like I said, I was excited. I was happy to see him again. It ran like a Mandalorian episode, like you said, except for the tag at the end. And it was just like, I really missed that show, and I can't wait for it to come back.
It has such a different energy.
Yeah, like, it does.
Mando has like vibrational energy. He's not moving, he's not doing stuff, he's not doing big emotes, but you can feel sort of the intensity underneath the mask. Whereas Boba Fett, we haven't seen him really sweat yet. He gets angry right when he's fighting, but outside of that, he's a little too cool under the collar, right? He's almost what you would normally see in the mentor figure, right? Because he is at that point where he should be fucking mentoring people, right? But he's too at peace. Like, he's at peace with who he is now, but he's got shit to do. But it's not a turmoil like thing. It's I'm gonna go out there and make a difference. I have no insecurity. I have no needs aside from, putting my foot down and making things better. I'm gonna get mine, but there's no burning fire in the belly, as it were. And I think that's missing a little bit in the energy for the show.
Yeah, I agree. Because I kind of felt that, especially when he had those, like, the street kids. Like, even though it wasn't really that much going on with them, they were the fire.
And he responded in the right way, because he could have just been like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. But he was just like, yeah, no, samey. Yeah, this is fucking bullshit.
Right.
By the way, you got no job, you're working for me now. Right? You want work, I will give you work.
Right. So he would be in behind the scenes commander, kind of strategic, kind of working it out and having, his folks doing his thing.
I want to see that Boba Fett more, where it is the behind the scenes, the planning, the strategizing, that sort of stuff would be sweet, right? I mean, that leans a little bit into the spy direction of like playing the game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Right? We kind of see that. You know, he
Mhm.
sent his little cyborg eye friend to like keep an eye on things, but we're not seeing him setting up plans, setting up contingencies.
Right.
Like, I'd love to see the equivalent of kind of like a proper heist episode,
Mhm.
right? It's really the trope of the heist episode is like, we've got plans, right? We're gonna think this thing out.
Right.
And we're going to kind of hoodwink the audience because they're not going to know all our plans.
Mhm.
So when things go sideways, oh, we had a plan for that.
Exactly.
Right? And it gets fun because you can be like, oh, we had a plan for that.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. We handle it. We roll with it. And we maybe had one more backup plan. And now shit's going sideways.
Right.
Right? But that would be fun. That would be really fun and interesting to see because I feel like you could... flavor wise, his mindset coming to that is the hunter, is the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Right? And assuming there's another scenario where it's Boba Fett, Mando, and Fennec, you got 2 bounty hunters and an assassin. Those are 3 different those are 3 hunters, right? There's small things like even when Mando walked into that room looking for his bounty, right? Saying a thing like, well, I already know no one else is coming in here because pointing over to a corner, that door is sealed off. That goes straight out into space. The only door out of here is the one that I walked through, and I'm walking out of here with your head. The fact that it implies planning, right? You just have to imply the planning sometimes. You don't even have to show it. Right? But it makes the characters appear far more clever, far more intelligent and methodical. And having the classic heist planning meeting between Fennec, Boba, and Mando, or even just Boba and Fennec and maybe some other characters, would be fascinating to watch. I want to see them do that genre in Star Wars.
That'd be nice, especially if you're doing long form like this too. It'd be the way to go.
Theoretically, you could have season 2 of Boba Fett being one long caper, right? And it might be, you know, we're trying to take out this other faction or whatever it is, but it's we're setting up wheels within wheels, right? And recruiting and driving and undermining, right? They're waging an underworld war and seeing it a little bit more from sort of a strategic perspective would be interesting for me. I don't know about average viewers wanting to sort of like drudge through that, but you can make it interesting and fascinating.
Right. And it makes sense because he's no longer a blunt force instrument.
Right?
You could tell that because the way he's dealing with everything.
His whole thing now is we don't do things the stupid way.
Right.
We don't get... When people don't have to die, they don't die.
Yeah.
Right? We're not just going to murder our way through to our goals.
Right. He's all long game, and I appreciate that. But like I said, you have to have a compelling story to keep you going with that, because those sometimes, if not done right, it could seem very slow and very, slow.
Right.
So
I gotta wonder if they're going to show enough restraint for the last episode of the season to not have Boba Fett ride the Rancor.
I don't know. He might be doing that thing into battle, but the thing about it is they haven't showed any time of him training with it or anything. So, but that would be if they're having a battle, yeah, he'd be riding that thing, leading off the charge. But you sure they're not gonna have an extra episode? That's gonna be pretty tight for it to all just hit one more.
I can Google again.
That's pretty tight, man. That's. I can't imagine all that in one episode. If they do, that's gonna be.
It's too much resolution.
Yeah, that's a lot going on.
It might also be they just take out. I'm seeing episode 7 now. Okay, so there's probably going to be...
That makes sense then. Because that's too much, man. If they just now get Mando and then... No, because they almost... Not that they wasted it, they didn't waste it. Not to me, because I really
Right.
love this episode. But as far as their situation, it was a waste. So they
Yeah.
almost lost the episode
They still
because of
haven't
this.
done the setup for the
Right.
last conflict. They still
Right.
need episode 6, which is going to be probably the setup
Right.
to it.
Then the resolve on 7. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay, because like
Who
I was
knows?
like, this
Maybe
is
there'll
too...
be an 8th one. Who knows?
All right, so that makes sense. Okay. Bryce Dallas directed her butt off.
She fucking nailed it.
Favreau did his thing with this, with the writing. Once again, simple, but covered a lot, which is an art in itself. It was great seeing Mando again. Like I said, I was giddy the whole time. I watched it with an extra kind of enjoyment. Just the vibe of it, just the feels from all his history, and you know what that stuff means. And even when he should be on to his next thing, he's still about that Grogu. I think that's beautiful.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and being a parent, I think maybe I'm just extra soft on that now, but it means something to me when I saw that. It's just like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a dad show.
Oh yeah, it's a total dad show. Like, there was this sort of conversation within sort of video game journalism with like, oh, are we seeing all these stories about sort of father figures and kids because all the kids that grew up playing video games are now writing and directing video games, and they're writing dad stories now? It's like, okay, yeah.
It's funny how you feed the art that fed you.
Right.
It's beautiful. But yeah, that's what it is. So did you have any final words about this episode, or?
We got Boba Fett's "I Want" song.
Uh-huh.
Got Mando showing up now. Okay, there's your muscle, or at least I would hope just some of your muscle. You're gonna need some more muscle. You're gonna need some more muscle.
And he knows a couple guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we need the setup episode so we understand what they're up against. Because is it like 20 Pike Syndicate guys? Because it looks like how many got off the transports in the last.
That couldn't have been it though. That couldn't have been it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like that's how many guys were on the fucking train that went through the desert. Like, and that was like Boba without his armor and some sand people.
They couldn't possibly be doing all the stuff that they're doing where people are fearing them and they're running spice and they're running water and all
Right.
that. They can't, that operation is too big to be 20 people. No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm wondering if we're not even at the third act, if we're like halfway, because it might be that they do like 10 episodes, right?
Ooh.
So they do 10 episodes, or even 8, because that gives us 3 more. That's more
like
breathing room to lay out all the challenges, how many of the Pike Syndicates, where they are, what ships they have, right? So I don't know. We'll have to see. I hope it's more than just 7 episodes. They seem to like even numbers, so
Yeah.
I suspect at least 8.
I would hope so, but you know what? For sure, next week's show, we should be able to tell what's going down, because we'll know if it's
Yeah.
something that could be pulled off in one episode or not.
Yeah,
We see enough stuff to be able to tell.
we've been around the block.
Just a little bit. Yeah, so I agree. I'm looking forward to it. I enjoyed this one. So we'll see what happens next week. All right, so Ryan, it was good catching up with you, as always. Let's have our fingers crossed for hopefully a strong landing. Sometimes it's about that landing. It can be kind of rough.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
All right, man. Till next time, this is the way.
Ah, you beat me to it. Dang it, Jay. I was going to do the same thing.
Hey, this is Jay, and I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. I just want to let you know that this conversation is part of a larger conversation that continues on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Hey, it's Jay, if you enjoyed my conversation with Ryan, please check out our episodes where we talked about the Book of Boba Fett, Spider-Man No Way Home, and the movie Batman. Thanks for listening, and until next time, peace.